GD Vegas Fulcha, and welcome back to another episode of Craic on the Coast, your home for Irish culture, heritage, music, and community across the South Shore. I'm your host, Michael Schilling, and with me, as always, the man who keeps the kettle on, Mr. Greg Shanahan.
Good to be here, Michael. Thanks for having me as usual. We have a great episode lined up today. A nice, warm, community-focused, and full of Galway charm episode.
That's right. Today, we're joined by wonderful guest Kevin Clancy, owner of the Galway Girl Irish Shop in Duxbury. And Kevin himself, originally from Oughterard, County Galway, a stunning corner of the island with some of the best scenery, music, and people.
And if you've been into the Galway Girl, you know the feeling. It's welcoming, authentic, and filled with Irish gifts, crafts, and stories. And we're really excited to hear how it all came to be.
So welcome to Craic on the Coast, Kevin.
Thanks, Michael and Greg, and it's good to see you already have the gift of the gab. Making me feel really welcome. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. I would say probably the biggest first thing for our listeners is just to hear a little bit background on you and coming from Oughterard and when you decided to come over and your story.
Well, yeah, as I said, growing up in the west coast of Ireland, there was farming, fishing, and some sports, boxing and football, etc. So as I said, a small community, very similar to the small towns here in the South Shore. Everybody knew everybody, and like anything, we all had a dream. And I knew from a very young age I wanted to come to America, and it all stemmed from watching a show, which is hilarious, Roseanne. And I used to say to my brothers, isn't it amazing they can get pizza to their house and Chinese food? And I say to my kids now, I just realized this is the reason I came. I thought this was fascinating. Now I realize they're actually really poor. But this was the American dream.
I didn't want to say anything, but all right.
Yeah, exactly. But as I said, growing up in rural Ireland, there was a lot of fun. But I knew there was, places I wanted to see. And as I said, and the opportunity became to kind of move to Dorchester in Boston, where the Irish is rife, and the opportunity to come over and play football for the Connemara Gaels just after I graduated college. I think I got home from college on the Tuesday. My mother said, what's your plan? I got a phone call on the Wednesday. The guy said I had to get on a plane on a Thursday. And I was here in Boston on the 8th of April, 1999. So as I left, my mother was crying at the door. And I said, what are you crying for? I said, I'll be back in 3 months. And I said, that was 25 years ago. So as I said, it goes fast, and it has been an amazing time and a journey. And as I said, from one year to the next, I never know where it's going to take me. But the one thing that's kept me true and strong, it has been our Irish culture and our heritage. And I've always said, you can take the man from Ireland, but you'll never take Ireland from the man. And I stand by that every day. And meeting the likes of yourselves here at the AOH and etc. has really, really given me a lot more grit and determination on what we're doing at the Galway Girl and what we hope to do for the future.
That's a great story. So when did you make your way down from being in Boston and Dorchester and make your way down to the South Shore?
I took the long route because I moved to London first.
Oh, geez, that's really around.
Yeah. So in 2004, I had my siblings, my brother Rory, my sister Geraldine, were living in London. I was living here, and I decided, okay, I had spent 5 years here. I said, let me get back a bit closer to home again. I kind of missed it. And so I decided to move to London with those. And London provided some great opportunities. I'd set up a recruitment company over there. We provided engineers to all the major Irish developers over there. And then the recession happened in about 2009. And everything just collapsed like everywhere it did in the world. And I was fortunate enough to have married my soulmate, who I'd met here originally in 99. And we got back together 7 years later, and she moved to London with me.
Wow. I was going to ask that, if Alicia, if you met her here or if in London. Yeah.
No, I met her the second week I was out here, and she decided she was going to college, and I always figured, I'm like, oh, I cannot do this long-term relationship. So I'm like a pure Irishman. I sulked and hopped on a plane and moved to London. And she actually found me through social media 7 years later.
Wow.
And she was engaged to be married. And I was engaged to be married. And she just that I wanted to find out if you still had any feelings for me. And I was like, next thing, 3 months later, we were married.
That's
So
amazing.
that's the short version of the story. She had moved to London with me. So that's the second stage of my life. This is how I ended up back in Boston. Yeah. With her. So yeah.
Wow, that was a loaded question.
Yeah, really. I
It
would
was,
say,
yeah, there was no short way to answer that one.
wasn't
And that is the short version.
wasn't supposed to go that way, was it?
Mm-mm.
So, Kevin, let's talk about the Galway Girl Irish Shop. You know, every small business starts with a spark. What inspired you to open the shop, and how did the idea go from maybe someday to actually turning the key on opening day?
It actually happened very fast. It was like, I always griped that I had to um, travel up to Quincy to get the Irish food, and staying close with my Irish heritage. I found it harder and harder down here at the South Shore. And I used to be always watching what my kids would be eating in the house. And I go, oh, when we grew up, we had this, we had that. And then, as I said, I had the construction company, and I had some great Brazilian guys working for me. And they would come in with all their Brazilian food. And I was embarrassed. I'm like, they're embracing their culture. They have their butchers, they have their stores, they have everything around them. And I'm like, why is it so difficult to get the Irish food down here in the South Shore?
Sure.
And I just said to my wife, I said, somebody's going to open a store and they're going to make a killing. That went on for 4 or 5 years. Nothing was happening. And it just happened. We had planned an opening in Kingston, and somebody pointed out the store in Duxbury that was for rent. And I went over, still not fully committed to it, just like an idea. And the minute I walked in the store, I said, this place is perfect.
That's great.
And I put the idea forward, thinking, we may get the store, we may not. 2 hours later, the guy goes, come in and sign a contract. So I came back and I said to my wife, I guess we're opening up an Irish store. So, yeah. And
That would, when you said it went on for 4 years, like the back and forth idea, were you always going to call it the Galway Girl?
so we had a lot of names, and I'm like, we wanted something that had meaning to it. And so, stemming back to both our stories, Alicia's great grandmother originated from my Cullen in Galway, and she had a tremendous journey over here, and set up, married, and had a terrific family here, and just a very, very strong. Immigrated here at 15 years of age and made a really good life for herself. Me, on the other hand, then I'm like 9 years of age. My father passed away, and my grandparents were great, but my grandmothers and my mother and my aunts reared us, like just taught us everything we needed to know about being a man, and that's coming from women, Galway women. And then I had 4 daughters, and I said, you know what? These are all Galway girls. I'm going to honor all these because my daughters are my world. What my aunts and mother did for us to get us through college, get us everything we needed, etc. And I'm like, so it's kind of an honor to all the Galway girls that helped us to get to this point.
Surrounded all by all those women, did you really have a choice though at the same time?
Off the name,
Yeah.
I did. We actually spoke about it, and it's like we just didn't want to, like, if somebody said, why did you call it the Galway Girl? We didn't want to say, oh, because it's it's a catchy name, and it's
Yeah.
a tribute to all the songs. And no, as I said, that was we wanted to honor those women. And then it was like, oh, the Galway Girl, the Galway Girls.
There's
There
great
it is.
meaning behind that. I
Yeah,
like
it is.
that.
Yeah, it means a lot to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a great name.
Yeah. So you said it, and we've had this discussions before. You both have jobs. Alicia has a job, you have a job. How do you pull off running a family store as like a side gig?
Well, so you set up the AOH.
Yep.
We've done the same thing. You're giving back to our Irish culture, our Irish heritage. So we figured, in order for this store to be around for a very, very long time, the best chance it has to survive is us not to depend on it. Us not to lean on the Galway Girl and say, this is what we need to do to feed our family. It was never about that. The Galway Girl was established to give back to our Irish culture, our Irish heritage, and we didn't want it to be a business that would be gone within a year. So we both decided we would keep our jobs, and this would be like our hobby and our pastime. And we set it up this way, that the Galway Girl will be around here for a long, long time to come. And we're going into our 3rd year, and I can proudly say it'll be here for like a long to last long further. So it's like, it's our hobby and pastime, and it's our thank you to our community and our heritage. And like I said, we hope to grow and expand. So yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you can definitely tell it's a family shop when you go in. I mean, it's definitely has that vibe. It's
Especially
not.
when you go in on Sundays and Kevin's there.
Well, yeah, actually, that goes without saying. But no, it has that vibe, and that's really what you want. It's so comfortable. There's a lot of places around. They claim they're selling the Irish goods and whatnot, and feel particularly comfortable in there.
Yeah, like, you think all as my wife, myself and my wife was to do is sit down and discuss all these deep conversations. It's not the way, but we did, like, so the big thing for me was, it wasn't just about selling Irish products from Ireland. It's like, I want the people when they walk in the store, especially people that have never been to Ireland, what it feels like to walk into a community store in Ireland. I'm like, when I go back, my kids won't come to the shop with me when I go to get the newspaper, because I said, Dad, you're going to be gone for 2 hours. You never stop talking to people. And I'm like, but that's the Irish community. That's what the store was about. And I remember growing up, it's like, you could go into the store and ask the local shopkeeper, can you call my mother? Tell her to come pick me up. Oh, it's raining now. Can I stand inside the door? Like, that was a given. And that's what we tried to create at the Galway Girl. We got the middle school kids coming in, as we love to see them coming in. We have lots of banter, and I'm like, showing them what I grew up with, and as I said, what was involved in my childhood and the treats we enjoyed, and watching them to experience that, especially kids that have never been to Ireland.
Sure.
I said, obviously you have the Irish that come in and the second and third generation, which is great, but that kid that has no idea what the store is about, and to watch him go, hey, mister, that is a great chocolate bar. Like, I'm like, the proof is in the pudding. But it brings a lot of smiles to our faces. I'm like, I'm over there every Sunday, and it's like, I could be out in a boat fishing. I'm so happy out there,
I will say this, from the several times that I've been there, you usually don't get in and out really fast, because you always end up sitting down and having a conversation with, whether it's you or Alicia or whoever you have working there. It's not that type of place. You don't run in and run out and just make your purchase. You actually like sit and chat for a minute.
No, and like, as I said, in general, it's a pet peeve of mine. For anybody, when you walk into anybody's establishment, we're privileged that you've chosen our establishment. Do you know what I mean? Like, people are on about, like, we got to support small businesses and keep them alive and keep them awake and keep them within the economy. But, we've got to go the extra mile too and show our appreciation. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, we mightn't always be able to compete with the larger companies on price point, but you know what? There's a lot more to it too. You can offer hospitality, friendship, and the community at Duxbury. I feel like I'm back in Oughterard.
Mhm.
I'm like, I know everybody around there. People come in to say hello, not even to buy anything, but to see. When I was back in Ireland, the amount of people that came in to chat to see how my trip was back in Ireland, and that meant the world to me. Like, that they take time out of their day to walk through the door to say, hey, Kevin, how's your family? How is everything back home? And I'm like, that gives me a piece of home right here. And
Sure.
I'm like, that's what happens back in Ireland, which you all know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
beautiful.
clearly such a deliberate atmosphere that it's great, and no wonder you're so successful at it. What would you say, heading into the holiday seasons? What can the customers expect from the Galway Girl? Incidentally, before we move on, I just want to say your social media is terrific, Facebook and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
Keeping people up to date on what you're selling and what's going on.
Well, I guess it's something I didn't grow up with in the west of Ireland. I'm like, our social media was your mother shouting out the door saying dinner's ready. But yeah, I've had to adapt to that. I'm like, I'm from a construction background. I'm a carpenter. I use my hands, etc. And I'm like, but the power of social media has been huge, and just keeping people in touch with what we have in the store. So you, what to expect at Christmas? I have Connemara socks. I probably counted 200 pairs last night after working all day. We have our Aran sweaters that are in. Alicia does a tremendous job, and like the clad of jewelry. But also, I want to tell people about an artist called Chris Murray. I went back to the Galway in October. I specifically go into the farmers markets to find hidden gems. I met this artist, Chris Murray, 75 years of age, and we brought over some of his work here to the store, and I'm proud to have it displayed. And Chris will tell you, and he said to me when I was leaving, there's only two places you can get my art, at the farmer's market and at the Galway Girl. Um,
You know, that's funny. I think I actually have one of his. When we were the last time we were over, we were at the farmer's market,
yeah.
and there was one that, and we definitely picked up one or two from him.
Oh, yeah. He's
Great stuff.
brilliant. Yeah, it's brilliant. I'm like, yeah, then there's the Flaherty's. Like, I have leather wallets. I met this guy on the farmer's market, and I said, where can I come and see your work? And he's like, oh, I live in Oughterard. I'm like, hey, I'm your neighbor. We'll be out. So I went up, and he does these beautiful leather and tweed wallets. And I was sitting in there watching him with his shears, cutting the tweed, smoking his pipe. I can still smell the tobacco off the wall. I was just amazed. And again, like, they sit there on the shelf, and I love telling people where these came from. And I said, there's only two places you can get these, like, and that's the Galway Girl or the farmer's market. I'm like, we deal with a company called Bog and Brass. They take the old bog out of the earth, over 5,000 years old. They make me pens, beautiful ballpoint pens, Gillette razor handles. They make all this beautiful stuff out of this bog and brass. When people hold that, I tell them, I'm like, that's not just a pen. That's like 5,000 years old. And we do strive, like, as I said, I'm glad to be looking at Michael's watch, wear one of our rustic wood watches, and Adrian from Rustic Wood, just an amazing man. And he makes all these watches from oak barrels, fallen yew trees, ash trees, etc. And just to be able to find these unique products. I'll be back in January again. And the first question I ask them is, have you ever shipped to America? And they'll go, nope. I'll go, I want your product in my store then.
See, I love the idea, to Greg's point, where you go into a larger store that has those types of wares and gifts. There's no one to ask to begin with, but the fact that you could walk into the Galway Girl and you can ask that question, like, oh, where did this come from? And you're getting a straight answer. And getting that answer gives people even more satisfaction in what they're purchasing is authentic, is from Ireland. And I think that's great that you guys have that ability to be able to offer that compared to a larger store.
And
Oh,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm
Oh,
glad I asked that question, because if you're looking for any Christmas ideas for me, I definitely need a new wallet. And I'm admiring both of your watches, so I think you've
This watch is
problem
great.
solved if you're wondering what you were going to get me.
yeah. Sometimes I like, when people come in, I forget it's a store, like, and I give them a tour like it's a museum, because I've shown them all the different products, and I give it the whole history of the person that made this and where the materials came from, and I get so excited, and I'm like, I'm wondering, oh, this poor person just came in here to maybe buy some crunchies or flakes or whatever, but they're getting the whole 9 yards right now. Yeah.
But I will say this, that's what makes it not just a shop, though. I mean, your passion for the history and the heritage of it all. I mean, you guys, you're open on St. Patrick's Day, but you're not just open. Every St. Patrick's Day, you guys have had like a community feel where you have dancers come in. You did that for halfway to St. Patrick's Day. I think that's great that it's not just a shop, that it is a sense of community and definitely a celebration of heritage.
Yeah, but and like, like, working in the store and watching. I've seen people come in the door and run, like, from shelf to shelf, because they've seen things that has brought memories back, and so excited, or they haven't been able to find these things. And I'm like, the excitement in me, and I'm like, wow, we achieved that by just opening this store. And I firmly believe, on the basis of having our any opportunity we can to promote our heritage and get people to enjoy it and embrace it, these are opportunities that cannot be passed.
So
And I'm like, St. Patrick's Day, I'm like, people say, oh, it's a bigger holiday in America than in Ireland. And I said, well, I'm proud it is. Absolutely. Because when we opened the store, and I did say it to my wife, I said, our biggest customer base is going to be the second generation Irish. I said, not the first generation like me. It's going to be the second generation, because I said, they appreciate it more. As I said, they've heard about it. They've been back to trips to Ireland. It's like they heard the stories of their parents about growing up in Ireland, etc. And I'm like, these are all stemming memories. It's like they hold on to it. Now, the older I'm getting on, I get too. I'm like, you know what? We need to all hold on to. We need to grasp our heritage. We need to keep it alive. We need to pass it on to our children so they can pass it on to their children. You know, immigration in Ireland, as I said, we've seen the amount of people that have left now for Australia and to Ireland. I said, 10 years passes by fast. And I've witnessed that. I've been gone 25 years. I've lived in America. I lived away from home longer than I've lived in Ireland.
Mm.
So I said, the one thing that keeps me sane is hanging on to my heritage.
Sure.
You know, I said, I still have a lot of family back in Ireland and we connect and it's beautiful. But I'm like, when I walk in the door and I see Brennan's bread on the table and Kerrygold butter and pack of uh, custard creams and the rest that goes with it. And I'm like, you know what? I said, I'm back home. I'm back home. And when I sit down and eat the Irish breakfast, I'm like, I said, I see my mother in the kitchen, even though she's not there. But I'm like, it just brings back a lot of memories.
So before we wrap up and we get into other items, what you've accomplished a lot in 3 years, but you said so yourself. Like there's always plans. What what do you think you see? Let's say 5 years from now.
5 years from now, I'm like, to be quite honest, I'd like to have a little Galway girl in, you know, different towns in Massachusetts. So as I said, that everybody could get the same feeling. I think it's not about selling the Irish products as much as it is the feeling you get of when you walk into an Irish store. And the biggest compliment you've paid me is how we make you feel when we walk in the store. And, you know, I'm like, that's important. So if I can spread that further throughout Massachusetts and to dream big throughout America, why not?
Mm.
You know, as I said, you know, it's not what you sell, it's how you sell it. And I'm like, I'm really trying to sell the Irish culture, not the actual products in itself, you know, and how it's sold and how people are made feel when you go into a local community store. And we need to bring that back more. Yeah, we've all got into the habits of walking into Targets and Walmarts and self-checkout and this and that. And I'm like, people walk into our store, they're smiling from ear to ear. And you can tell they want to engage in a conversation and tell you about their trips to Ireland or their favorite memories or their Irish ancestry. And that's beautiful. You know, you don't get that in most stores. So I said, if we can grow that throughout, we're waiting. We're hoping to announce the opening of our second store soon.
Nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's going to be hopefully within the next month that'll be announced. And
Wow.
yeah, but as I said, all we can keep doing is moving forward and growing. And this kind of feedback is huge to us because, as I said, it really has brought me a lot of joy, the Galway Girl. And
So what I would say to all of our listeners is we'll put everything in our show notes, but be on the lookout on the Galway Girl social media for possible announcements. That's exciting stuff.
oh yeah, I'm I'm cracking up. We said to like I coach all my kids soccer. We were very involved with our kids, and I said to my wife, we might have to hire a second set of parents here to step in, some substitutes. I'm like, this is getting crazy, but yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
Wow, this it just has been fantastic, Kevin. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story from Galway to Duxbury. It's just a great example of how Irish culture really finds a place wherever it goes.
Yeah,
It's,
absolutely.
it is, yeah. No, and I'd like to thank you guys too, because as I said, from the day we opened our doors, you've been there supporting us, and we really appreciate it. And you know what? I'm like, yeah, as I said, let's keep our heritage strong.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we're big on here. We're big on heritage, but also authenticity.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked with that with several of the local pub owners that we've had on. You know, the big companies have tried to manufacture it. They can't.
No.
No.
They can't. You
Mm-mm.
can't manufacture authenticity. It's either there or it's not.
No, you can't. And like I said, like going back to the simple things like the watches and those leather wallets, I'm like, they were made by an individual, and they were made from, you know, a skill set he was probably taught by his father, and that was taught by his father before him, and he's continued it. And I'm like, so too, that's why I like to bring those products into the store. So I'm like, there's a story behind them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one story that I before we really and I just had this thought because I think people will enjoy this is the story you shared with me about the Bog Oak watch and how you listed it and you talked about it on social media, and the next day you had a customer waiting before the shop even opened.
Oh yeah, I'm like, so Adrian that makes the rustic wood watches came up. I met him back in the RDS at a trade show, and he had this one spectacular watch in a beautiful box, and it was a tribute to the immigration of Ireland to the US and that connection. It was just so well presented, and he said, "Yeah," he said, "it takes me 4 months to make one of those," and I'm like, I said, "I want it." I said, "I don't care." Yeah. I said, I want it. And so I bought it off him there and then, and I did put it up on social media. And I said to my wife, it was, probably one of the more expensive items in the store. And I said, "Oh," I said, "I don't care if it never sells. It's such a great watch and there's such a great story behind it." And I'm like, I said, if it's sitting there even after a year, I said, I'll be buying it myself. I love this watch. And I'm like, oh. So I did put it up on social media, and I came in Sunday morning to open up the store, and I had the watch with me. And there's a guy sitting outside the store, and he's like, I'm like, I said, "Oh yeah," I said, "I'll be opening up in a second." He goes, he said, "Do you have that watch you had on social media?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I haven't even put it in the store yet." I said, "I haven't even put it in the registry." He said, "Don't." He said, "I want it." He said, "I'm a watch collector." He said, "I want it." I'm like, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." So the watch sold. Called Adrian that morning. I said, "Oh, send me over 4 more." He said, "4 more?" He said, I said, "Yeah." I said, "It didn't even get inside my door." And the watch was gone. I'm like, oh. So yeah, I didn't even get to display it.
So I'm not getting one for Christmas.
Oh, so yeah, but this has been great. Thanks so much for coming on, Kevin. We really appreciate you coming on. And again, Greg and I just can't speak highly of the shop enough, and we would definitely tell everybody in our area to make that trek over there during this Christmas season. There's plenty of stuff for you to find that will hold a lot of meaning that would be a great gift for someone.
Absolutely, and just, I mean, I'll say what I always say, it's not that far away. I mean, we're here on the South Shore. Everyone acts like it's, 100 miles long by 200 miles wide. It's a small place, and
Yeah.
everything is accessible, and certainly, the Galway Girl, anyone on the South Shore is a nice Saturday trip, and you're not gonna be sorry once you got there, so
No, not at all.
get
Just
out.
you're on about. I had just to finish up. I had a 92-year-old woman travel all the way from the Catskills to come to the store.
Wow.
Yes, her and her daughter. And she said, "I take my mother somewhere every Sunday." And I come into the house. I said, "Where do you want to go?" And she said, she had an Irish Post article on the table, and she goes, "Take me here." She said, "This guy is from Oughterard." And she had been born in Oughterard and left at 2 years of age.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So she came down to me, and I said, "By any chance, did you know Michael John Joyce, who was my cousin, who was uh, pretty famous musician and used to play in the Catskills all the time?" She said, "Not alone did I know him," she said, "he used to stay in my house." And he was the first Galway man to record an album. And she had his album out in the car. She brought it with her,
That's
signed.
wow.
And I said, "I will buy that after you. Name your price." She said, "Nope. You could give me this shop and I wouldn't give it to you." So I'm like, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I feel like that can only happen to Irish people.
Yeah, that's
It's only something that would happen to our culture is that type of.
you wouldn't believe it if somebody else told you that story.
No, no, not at all. Well, again, thank you again for coming on the show, Kevin. We're excited about what holds with you with regards to the future.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, maybe we can do this again next year and we'll have an update of where we've gone from here.
Yeah, maybe we could do an on location at
Oh, yeah.
one spot or the other.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah,
That would be
that'd
awesome.
brilliant.
Yeah.
I do like the on location shows. I mean, it's nice to be here in Hibernian Hall, but it's a little bit emptier than some of the other places we've been. So.
Yeah, yeah. Um, to end off the show, we actually have a couple of announcements for our listeners. If you're listening and you are in the Plymouth County area, we have exciting news. Our Dublin Heritage Marker is set to be unveiled in Plymouth on Monday, December 8th at 11 a.m. It's a major milestone, something we've been working on for several years now. We're going to have the Consul General of Ireland, Sheila Fitzgerald, will be in attendance. I'm sure a couple other local dignitaries, and we're excited to give a little bit back and to bring recognition to a part of Plymouth that holds its history for the Irish who came here and who immigrated here. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So we'll have more information on that on our social media accounts. And any of the dignitaries should be getting written invitations. But it should be a great morning, and I'm excited for that. It'll be the getting over the finish line on a project that we've been working really hard on. So I'm glad that that's happening. And then, Greg, we have another announcement that has to do with not only the Father John Murphy division, but also the South Shore Irish Heritage Trail.
So this is a big announcement, I think, one of the biggest we've had, and it's part of a pet project of the president of the AOH, Michael Schilling. But the Father John Murphy division and the South Shore Irish Heritage Trail are launching the South Shore Irish Road Bowling League.
That's right.
So road bowling is officially coming to the South Shore, and we're looking for interested players in teams from all the trail towns: Situate, Marshfield, Duxbury, Kingston, Plymouth, Cohasset, Hingham. Michael conveniently left off Weymouth because he knows we already have a team in place, the North Weymouth Wolfhounds, who are looking for
It's
looking
full
for
of
players.
ringers. It's full of ringers.
It might be full of ringers, but we're also full of champions. So when that Riviera Cup is played sometime next summer, I'm looking forward to lifting it and as the owner and captain of the Wolfhounds.
There you go.
But we're planning an informational meeting in January, and the date and location will be announced soon.
But if you do want to get involved, there's an email, right?
Absolutely. Send it out to southshoreroadbowling@gmail.com. You're not going to want to miss this. We actually got a shipment of our supplies from our friends down in West Virginia, and we were excited to unveil that at the AOH meeting the other night. So another good reason to consider joining the AOH. You'll get to see a lot of things first. And
yeah, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's something we're going to be able to do up and down the coast. It's
absolutely, it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it.
So that'll be it. Be sure to go through all the show notes, get all the links with regards to the information on the Clancy's and the Galway Girl Shop. You're definitely going to want to subscribe to their social media accounts so you can see any news with regards to expansion and just to see what their offerings are going to be during the holiday season.
Be sure and swing by.
So that's it for this episode of Craic on the Coast. Thanks for tuning in. If you've enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, share it with a friend. Remember, we're on that new feed. So if you're listening to this, you have found us on that new feed. So make sure to subscribe on the new feed. And if you've got a story to tell or a topic you'd like us to talk about, you can email us over at craiconthecoast@gmail.com. That's CRAIC on the coast@gmail.com.
And if you're enjoying the show and you haven't done it already, follow us on both Facebook and Instagram. And please share it with your friends and families. We're looking to get the word out about the show and hopefully expand it out the upcoming year.
Yeah. So that'll be it. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week. Slán.
Slán.